The closing attorney looked down at the ownership documents, adjusted his glasses, and frowned. "I'm sorry," he said. "The sellers listed here don't own this property." My daughter-in-law's smile vanished. "What do you mean we don't own it?" she snapped. The buyers exchanged confused looks. My son leaned forward in his chair. "There has to be some mistake." The attorney shook his head. "There isn't." Then his eyes cut toward the conference room door, because right at that moment I came walking in. And for the first time in 10 years, my son and daughter-in-law found out who truly held title to the house they'd just tried to sell. But getting to that room took a long road. It started the Christmas before. My name is Gerald Caulfield. Welcome to True Revenge Stories. I'm glad you're here. If stories like this one speak to you, come back and follow along for more. Before we go any further, drop one word in the comments that captures how you're feeling right now. Just one word. I'd love to know what this kind of story stirs up in you. A quick note. Some details in this story have been shaped for the telling, and any resemblance to specific real people is coincidental. What matters most is the truth underneath it. 72 years old, living in a small town outside Indianapolis, Indiana. For the better part of my working life, I was a plumbing contractor. Nothing flashy about it. Long days, honest sweat, and enough self-respect to know every dollar I brought home was earned the right way. Vivian used to tell me I showed love through what I did rather than what I said. She was probably right. When Derek was growing up, I wasn't the type of father who sat him down for big heart-to-heart talks about life. I fixed his bicycle. I showed up to baseball games. I pulled extra hours when college tuition came due. I was just there, whatever he needed, whenever he needed it. Vivian passed away 12 years ago after a long fight with cancer. Anyone who has buried a spouse after 40 years of marriage knows exactly what follows. The house goes quiet. The days stretch longer. Every room holds something of hers. For 2 years, I lived in that silence alone. Then Derek's business fell apart. He'd launched a landscaping company alongside 2 partners. It looked promising early on, but a sour economy, bad contracts, and one dishonest partner ground the whole thing to dust. Within months, Derek and his wife Tanya were buried in debt. I still remember the night he drove over to see me. His shoulders carried a weight I'd never seen on him before. "Dad," he said quietly, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, "I don't know what we're going to do." Tanya was beside him. For once, she had nothing sharp to say. They had 2 young children at the time. Cassie was 8, Owen was 6. The thought of those kids losing solid ground broke something in me. I told Derek I'd help, and I did. What neither of them knew was that I'd already made a decision years before any of this happened. After Vivian died, I sold our larger family home and bought a smaller place across town held through an LLC. My attorney helped me set up. Nothing shady, nothing complicated, just sound estate planning to sidestep future probate headaches and keep family disputes from surfacing later. The house was comfortable. 3 bedrooms, a large yard, good schools nearby. I offered it to Derek and Tanya. They could live there for a modest monthly payment that barely covered taxes and upkeep. I never told them I owned it. At the time, it didn't feel like it mattered. Family was family, or so I believed. The first few years were good ones. We shared dinners. I was at school events. The grandchildren spent weekends in my room watching old war movies. Tanya seemed grateful. Derek seemed like he could breathe again. For a while, it genuinely felt like we'd come through a hard stretch together. Then things started shifting. Slowly. That's how it works with family. It rarely shatters in one blow. It splinters bit by bit. Tanya began making comments. Small ones at first, easy enough to brush aside. We'd have more room if Gerald didn't store so much stuff. Or must be nice not having a mortgage to worry about. At first, I let them roll off me. I figured it was stress doing the talking. But as the years went on, the comments got sharper. More pointed, more frequent. One evening at dinner, she complained because I'd left a cereal bowl in the sink. A cereal bowl. The way she carried on, you'd have thought I'd torched the garage. Derek sat there and said nothing while she went on. I kept looking at him, waiting for him to speak up. Just one word would have done it. He kept his eyes on his plate. That stung worse than anything Tanya said. Because a stranger doesn't owe you loyalty. A son does. As time went on, I was quietly cut out of family life. Vacations got planned without so much as a mention of whether I'd want to join. Furniture disappeared from my room without anyone asking. Birthday visits got shorter. Conversations went cold the moment I walked in. I noticed all of it. People my age always do. We just learned to stop bringing it up. The grandchildren were my saving grace. Cassie and Owen still treated me like their grandfather, still hugged me, still asked for stories, still wanted to know what I thought. But even that faded as they grew older. Tanya packed their schedules, so full there was barely room left for real family time. Weeks would pass without a proper conversation. The loneliness moved in the way it always does quietly without announcing itself. One afternoon, I was replacing a broken gutter bracket on the back of the house when I heard Tanya's voice carrying from inside, on speakerphone talking to a friend. I hadn't meant to listen, but some words reach out and grab you. "This house is holding us back," she said. I went still. Her friend replied with something I couldn't make out. Tanya laughed. "No, seriously, once we sell it, we'll finally be able to move somewhere better. Sell it." I stood there without moving. My first reaction was confusion. My second was disbelief, because she sounded absolutely sure of herself, as though the house were hers and Derek's, without question. She kept talking. Bigger homes, warmer climates, the money from the sale plans for what came next. Every sentence pointed to the same thing: she had no idea who actually owned that property. I finished the bracket and went inside. Nobody noticed a thing. Nobody saw that my heart was hammering. That evening I sat alone in my room and looked at an old photograph of Vivian. One of my favorites, her standing near a lake smiling at something just outside the frame. I still talk to her sometimes. "Well, Viv," I said quietly, "looks like we've got ourselves a situation." For the first time in years, I started asking myself whether staying silent had been an error. But I wasn't angry yet. Mostly just let down. Because the real problem wasn't the house. The real problem was what Tanya's words laid bare. Somewhere along the way, they had stopped thinking of me as family and started thinking of me as something in the way. I had no idea then how far it would go. No idea Christmas was only months off. No idea that before the year was out, my own son would help hand me a suitcase and tell me to disappear. But the machinery was already moving, and that first crack had grown too wide to pretend I hadn't seen it. After overhearing Tanya talk about selling, I spent weeks talking myself out of what I'd heard. Maybe she was just dreaming out loud. Maybe she was spinning possibilities with a friend. Maybe hurt feelings were bending the meaning of her words. At my age, you learn that not every wound deserves a reaction. People say thoughtless things. Families move through rough stretches. And sometimes patience untangles what a confrontation would only knot tighter. So I held my tongue. Time kept moving. Summer gave way to fall. The maples lining the street lit up in deep reds and golds. The grandchildren went back to school. The neighborhood returned to its usual pace. From the outside, we looked like any ordinary family on any ordinary street. Inside the house, something had quietly shifted. Tanya had stopped masking her resentment. The comments turned blunt. One morning, she walked into the kitchen and let out a long sigh when she found me drinking coffee. "You know," she said, pulling open the refrigerator, "most people your age prefer retirement communities." I looked up from my newspaper. "Most people my age probably do." She shrugged. "They have activities, friends' independence." The way she leaned on that last word left no room for misreading. I set down my paper. "Is there something you're trying to say, Tanya?" "No." She smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was a signal. Over the months that followed, exchanges like that became routine. Every inconvenience found its way back to me. If the utility bill climbed, I was using too much. If the garage felt tight, my belongings were the reason. If schedules got complicated, somehow my being there was the cause. Derek never openly sided with her attacks, but he rarely pushed back against them either, and silence lands just as hard as agreement. One Saturday, I asked Derek to lunch, just the two of us. We went to a diner we'd eaten at dozens of times when he was a kid. The same vinyl counter stools, the same short-order cook who had worked there for decades, the same smell of coffee and fried eggs. For a little while, things felt like they used to. We talked about football, the weather, his job, the grandchildren. Then I decided to say what had been sitting on my chest. "Dyke," I said carefully, "can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Sure. Are things okay between us?" He looked caught off guard. "What do you mean?" I studied his face, the one I'd watched change from a little boy's into a grown man's, still carrying somewhere in it the kid who used to trail me around the house with a toy wrench. I feel like you've been pulling away. He stared into his coffee. No, Dad, that's not it. Then what is it? He paused. That pause told me more than words would have. Finally, he exhaled. Tanya's under a lot of stress. I nodded slowly. I know. She's trying to plan for the future. I waited. And he rubbed his forehead. Sometimes she feels like we're stuck. There it was. Not anger, not cruelty, something almost harder to bear. Excuses. Rationalizations. The slow retreat of a son who had decided that peace in his marriage mattered more than honesty with his father. I asked quietly, and am I part of what's making her feel stuck? Derek didn't answer right away. His silence ran maybe 3 seconds. It felt like 3 years. Finally, he said, sometimes. What I'm about to share is the part of this story I carried alone for a long time, the moment I finally had to reckon with just how far the people I loved had gone. Before I get there, I want to ask you something. If someone close to you had been quietly working against you, would you confront them the moment you found out? Or would you wait and let the truth reveal itself on its own? That word landed harder than I'd braced for. Not because it was shouted, not because it was aimed to wound, but because it was the truth. I paid for lunch. We shook hands and we both walked out, pretending the conversation had gone better than it had. That evening I sat in my room a long while, not angry, just worn out. I found myself turning over the years, the double shifts, the vacations I never took, the second mortgage Vivian and I took out to help pay Derek's college tuition, the money we'd quietly handed him after the landscaping business went under. None of those things had felt like sacrifices when I was making them. That's simply what you do for your children. You don't keep a ledger. But sitting there in the quiet, I couldn't push away the thought that had been forming for a while now. Love doesn't need gratitude in return, but it does need respect. And respect was draining away. A few weeks later, Thanksgiving came. The whole family gathered at the house. Tanya's relatives showed up. Neighbors stopped in. The football game ran in the background while everyone ate. At first, everything felt fine. Then someone steered the conversation toward retirement. One of Tanya's cousins asked if I was enjoying having fewer obligations. I laughed it off. Depends on the day. Before I could get another word in, Tanya spoke up. Trust me, Gerald doesn't have many responsibilities anymore. A few people chuckled out of politeness. I smiled and let it go. Then she added, sometimes I think having him around is like raising another teenager. The room quieted. Not dead silent, but the kind of quiet that settles in when a joke doesn't land the way it was supposed to. I looked around the table. Several faces turned away. A few people managed uncomfortable smiles. Then I looked at Derek, my son. He didn't defend me. He didn't ask her to stop. He didn't even shift in his seat. He just kept eating. Something moved inside me. Not a dramatic shift, a quiet one. Just enough to force me to face something I'd been turning away from. I wasn't being treated as family anymore. I was being tolerated. And even that was wearing thin. December came. Holiday lights appeared along the street, glowing from front porches. Christmas music drifted out of stores. The grandchildren were full of excitement. For their sake, I worked to stay in good spirits. But Tanya's behavior kept worsening. One evening I passed through the living room and spotted papers fanned across the dining room table. Real estate documents, property valuations, market comparisons, notes on asking prices. Tanya swept them together the moment she noticed me, but I'd already seen enough. The next morning I called my attorney. His name was Clifton Burwell. We'd known each other close to 30 years. I explained the situation, then drove to Clifton Burwell's law office to meet with him in person. He listened to everything without interrupting. Then he pulled up the ownership records and went through them carefully. Finally, he leaned back. Gerald, legally speaking, they cannot sell the property. I know. They aren't listed as owners. I know. He studied me a beat. Then why haven't you told them? That was the real question, wasn't it? I looked out his office window because the answer had nothing to do with legal strategy. It was something else entirely. I keep hoping Derek will remember who he is. Clifton nodded slowly. And if he doesn't, I let myself sit with that possibility for the first time. The weight of it settled in my chest. Then I suppose I'll have to. Clifton closed the file. Whenever you're ready. I walked out of that office feeling older than when I'd walked in. Not because of the house, not because of the paperwork, because I was beginning to understand something I hadn't wanted to admit. The greatest threat to my family wasn't Tanya. It was Derek's willingness to stand beside her while she pushed me out. And the worst of it was still coming, because Christmas Eve was around the corner, and my son was about to make a choice neither of us would ever be able to take back. The weeks leading up to Christmas should have felt warm familiar. Instead, they felt like a clock running down. I had stopped pretending things were fine. The tension was no longer something you had to look for. Tanya barely masked her irritation when I walked into a room. Derek moved through the house, looking permanently exhausted, caught somewhere between guilt and avoidance. And I spent more time in my room than I ever had before, not because anyone had told me to stay there, not yet, but because it was simpler. Simpler than sitting through silence. Simpler than acting like everything was normal. Simpler than watching my family make clear inch by inch that I no longer fit. Still, I tried. For the grandchildren. I always found a way to try for them. One Saturday afternoon, Cassie knocked on my bedroom door. She was 16 by then, old enough to see what the adults thought they were keeping hidden. "Grandpa, come in." She sat on the edge of the bed. "You okay?" I smiled. "Why wouldn't I be?" She rolled her eyes. That made me laugh. Teenagers have a gift for cutting straight through polite deflection. "You seem sad." I looked at her for a moment. Then I told her the truth. Sometimes grown-ups make things harder than they have any reason to be. She nodded like she understood more than I was giving her credit for. Then she put her arms around me. No words, just that hug. For a few seconds the weight lifted. I'd think about that hug many times in the months ahead, because it reminded me that not everyone under that roof had lost sight of who I was. A few days later I stumbled onto another conversation. This time Tanya wasn't talking to a friend. She was on the phone with a realtor. I wasn't trying to listen. I happened to be walking down the hallway when her voice reached me. "The buyers are very interested." A pause. "Yes, we're hoping to close shortly after New Year's." I stopped where I stood. "The realtor must have raised a concern." Tanya laughed, confident, easy. "Oh, ownership won't be a problem." I nearly smiled, if only she knew. The certainty in her voice was something to behold. She genuinely believed she had a grip on all of it. The house, the future, the family. She had no idea she was stacking those plans on a foundation that was never hers to stand on. For a moment I thought about stepping in right then and ending the whole thing, but something held me back. Maybe pride. Maybe I needed to find out whether Derek still had it in him to do the right thing on his own. So I waited. Christmas Eve came in cold and clear. Indiana had taken on a light dusting of snow the night before. The neighborhood looked like something off a holiday card, white rooftops, lit up trees. Kids hauling sleds through front yards. The kind of scene Vivian always loved. I missed her sharply that day, more than usual, because I knew in my bones that if she had been here, none of this would have reached this point. She would have spotted the trouble months ago. She always could. The house filled with people that evening. Tanya's family arrived first, then a few neighbors. The grandchildren wove between rooms with plates of food and armloads of gifts. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was laughing. From the outside, we looked like a happy family. Inside, I felt strangely removed, as if I were watching it all from the other side of a window. Dinner passed without trouble. Presents were opened. Hugs went around. Photographs were taken. For a few hours, it almost passed for normal. Then guests began filtering out. Coats came off hooks. Cars eased out of the driveway. Voices faded down the street. By 10 o'clock, 4 of us were left. Me, Derek, Tanya, and the quiet. The mood changed at once. You know how certain moments give themselves away before a word is spoken. This was one of those. Tanya glanced at Derek. Derek looked at the floor. My stomach drew tight. "Can we talk?" Tanya asked. "Of course," I said. She gestured toward the living room. I followed them in, and that's when I saw it. A suitcase sitting beside the front door. I didn't grasp it right away. Then I did. The understanding came over me like a cold wave. Tanya sat down. Derek stayed on his feet. Neither of them looked at ease, but neither looked surprised either. This had been thought through, talked over, agreed upon long before tonight. Tanya folded her hands. "We've been talking about the future." I said nothing. "We think it's time for some changes." Still I waited. "We need more space." Derek nodded. "We need privacy." He nodded again. Each nod felt like another door swinging shut. Then Tanya said what she'd clearly worked out in advance. "We think you'd be happier somewhere else. Somewhere else. Not a different room. Not a different arrangement. Gone." Derek finally found words. "Dad, there are some nice senior apartments nearby." I looked at him, the small boy who used to beg me to check under his bed for monsters, the teenager whose shattered heart I helped put back together. After his first real breakup, the young man I pulled out of ruin when his business collapsed. Now he couldn't hold my gaze. Is this what you want? I asked quietly. His answer took a few seconds. Then he nodded. Yeah, one word, one devastating word. Tanya pointed toward the suitcase. We packed some essentials. Essentials as if I were a guest settling the hotel bill. Then she gave me a smile I will never stop seeing. The best gift you can give us is to disappear. The room went very still. Snow drifted past the windows outside. Inside, my entire understanding of my family broke open. I looked at Derek one last time, waiting, hoping, giving him one more chance to stop this, to say a single word, anything at all. He didn't. His silence said everything. Oddly enough, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't lay out everything I had given and lost for that family. I said nothing about owning the house. I simply got to my feet, picked up the suitcase, and walked to the door. Tanya looked relieved. Derek looked wretched. Neither one moved to stop me. The cold hit my face the moment I stepped outside. The neighborhood was still. Christmas lights shimmered across the snow-blanketed street. For a moment, I stood there gripping that suitcase, a 72-year-old man carrying his life in a single bag, turned out of a house he actually owned. The irony might have been funny if the hurt hadn't gone so deep. I drove to a small motel about 20 minutes away. Nothing special, just a clean room and somewhere to lie down. After checking in, I sat on the edge of the mattress alone. The quiet felt enormous. For 12 years since Vivian's death, I had carried grief, but this was something different. This was betrayal, and for the first time in a long while, I cried. Not loudly, not with any drama, just quietly. The way old men cry when no one is there to see it. After a while, I wiped my eyes, looked at the clock, and made up my mind. The waiting was done. The hoping was done. The excuses were done. I picked up my phone, found the number, and called the one person who already knew the full picture. Clifton Burwell, my attorney. He picked up on the second ring. Gerald? I drew a slow breath. It's time. It's time. Clifton went quiet for a moment after I said that. Then he asked what I knew he would ask. Are you sure? I looked around the motel room. The suitcase sat on the floor beside the bed. A suitcase my own family had packed for me. A suitcase they had pressed into my hands on Christmas Eve as though I were a problem to be disposed of. For months I had held on, hoping things would turn. For months I had given Derek chance after chance to find his way back to who he was. There was nothing left to hold on for. Yes, I said. I'm sure. Clifton exhaled slowly. All right. The weeks that followed passed in a strange kind of stillness. Not happiness, not anger, just clarity. For the first time in a long while, I stopped trying to manage everyone else's decisions. I rented a small furnished apartment on a month-to-month basis. Nothing elaborate, room enough for a bed, a recliner, and a kitchen table. And oddly, I felt more at ease there than I had in the larger house. No tension, no cutting remarks, no sense that I had to watch my every step. Just quiet. The kind that restores rather than wounds. Cassie called me twice during that stretch. The first time she sounded anxious. Grandpa, where are you? I chose my words with care. I'm staying somewhere else for a while. Why? Kids notice more than adults give them credit for. Even teenagers. Especially teenagers. I told her I just needed some time. She wasn't convinced. Neither was I, if I'm honest, but I wasn't going to pull her into the middle of it. The second call came about a week later. This time she sounded upset. Mom says you're being stubborn. I nearly laughed. Of all the words Tanya could have reached for stubborn. Not heartbroken, not betrayed, not abandoned. Stubborn. Do you think I'm stubborn? I asked. Cassie went quiet. Then she said something that nearly undid me. No. Just that one word, but where her father's single word on Christmas Eve had closed, a door hers opened something. A few days after that, Clifton called. They've scheduled the closing. I leaned back in my chair. When Betch, February the 17th. The date hung there. After all those months of waiting, the moment was nearly here. I wasn't excited. I wasn't nervous. Mostly I felt a deep sadness because none of this should have happened. The truth is that stories about getting even tend to sound satisfying from the outside. People picture dramatic confrontations, public humiliations, some triumphant speech. But real life isn't built that way. When family falls apart, nobody walks away whole. Someone always loses something that mattered. Sometimes everybody does. Closing day arrived cold and overcast. The title company was in a modest building near downtown Indianapolis. I got there early. Clifton met me in the parking lot. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "I think so." He held my gaze a second. "You don't have to go in there." "Yes, I do." Because this wasn't really about a piece of property. It was about the truth, and the truth had waited long enough. We went in through a side entrance and settled into a separate conference room. The title company had already been briefed on the ownership records. Everyone on our side understood that the documents would surface the problem. Nobody knew how the reaction would unfold. At 10:00, Derek and Tanya arrived. Clifton told me afterward that Tanya had come in looking buoyant. Apparently, she'd already been laying out moving plans, new furniture, a bigger home, a fresh beginning, all of it funded by the proceeds of a sale that was never going to happen. The buyers came in shortly after a retired couple moving from Kentucky. By every account, decent people with no idea they had walked into the middle of a family reckoning. The closing opened in the usual way. Documents were reviewed. Identification was checked. Signatures were prepared. Then the title attorney found the ownership discrepancy. At first there was confusion, then concern. Then came the moment. According to Clifton, the attorney set down the papers, adjusted his glasses, and said, "I'm sorry, but we have a problem." Tanya frowned. "What kind of problem?" "The listed sellers do not own this property." Silence. "What are you talking about?" Tanya asked. The attorney turned several pages. "The property is owned by Caulfield Property Holdings, LLC. Derek leaned forward. "There must be some mistake." "There isn't." Tanya shook her head. "That's impossible." The attorney kept his composure. "The records are quite clear." The buyers traded uneasy glances. Nobody wants to be a spectator at a family implosion, least of all strangers. Then the attorney said, "The managing member of the LLC is present today." And that's when Clifton opened the conference room door. I walked in. Everything stopped. I will never forget those faces. Tanya went from confused to shocked, to something close to frightened, all in a matter of seconds. Derek simply stared, as if his mind was refusing to accept the information in front of him. I took a seat across from them. Nobody spoke. Finally, Tanya found her voice. "Gerald," I nodded. "Hello, Tanya." What is this? Every bit of confidence she'd carried into that room had evaporated. The woman who had handed me a suitcase and told me to disappear suddenly looked very small. I kept my hands folded, my voice level. "The house belongs to me." The words hit the room like a stone dropped into still water. Derek's face went pale. "No." "Yes?" "Dad." He looked straight at me. For the first time in months, he couldn't look away. "I purchased the property 10 years ago." Nobody interrupted, so I continued. "I let you live there because I loved you." Silence. "I charged you far less than market rent." Silence. "I paid for repairs." Silence. "I never asked for gratitude." Tanya's eyes filled with tears. The buyers quietly excused themselves from the room. I didn't blame them. This wasn't their fight. Then I said the one thing that had always been at the heart of it. All I ever expected was respect. Derek dropped his head. The room held its quiet for a long moment. Finally he whispered, "Oh my God." Not because of the money. Not because the sale had fallen through. Because in that moment, he could finally see the whole picture. The sacrifices, the years, the patience. The suitcase handed to me on Christmas Eve. All of it. Tanya began apologizing quickly, emotionally. But I barely took the words in. Apologies that arrive after consequences always sound a certain way. Not necessarily hollow. Just late. Very late. Eventually Derek looked up at me. His eyes were red. "I'm sorry, Dad." For a moment I could see the boy again, the one who had trusted me without question, and that made it harder, not easier, harder. Because love doesn't just switch off, even when trust is gone. I nodded slowly. "I know." Then I laid out what would happen next. The living arrangement was finished. They would need to find another place. I wasn't putting them out on the street. I'd give them a reasonable amount of time. But the chapter was closed. The consequences of their choices had caught up with them. Nobody argued. Nobody pushed back. There was nothing left to say. As the meeting wrapped up, Derek stayed in his chair, staring at the conference table, staring at the wreckage of something he had helped bring down. And for the first time since Christmas Eve, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not victory. Relief. The truth was finally where it belonged. The strange thing about getting justice is that life doesn't suddenly brighten afterward. Movies tell us there'll be fireworks, a speech, a neat and triumphant ending. Real life is quieter than that. The morning after the closing, I woke up in the same small apartment, the same coffee maker on the counter, the same winter light pushing through the blinds. Nothing looked different, and yet something fundamental had shifted. For months, I had pictured this moment as a kind of triumph. What I actually felt was tired, not in my body and my heart, because even though I had held on to my dignity, I had also had to face a truth that doesn't get easier with time. The family I thought I had no longer existed the way I'd known it. That takes a while to settle. Fortunately, time has a way of letting old wounds breathe. Spring came slowly to Indiana. The snow pulled back. Green returned to the trees, and for the first time in years, I began making choices entirely for myself. Not for Derek. Not for Tanya. Not for anyone else. Just me. A few months after the closing fell apart, I bought a small house near a lake community about 40 minutes outside Indianapolis. It wasn't large, less than half the size of the old place, if I'm honest, but it had a kind of peace to it. The back deck faced the water. There was a fishing pier nearby, and most of the neighbors were retirees who had figured something out that a lot of people never do. Life gets considerably lighter once you stop keeping score and start paying attention to what you have. Within a few weeks, I had settled into a rhythm. Morning walks, woodworking in the garage, coffee with neighbors' volunteer work at a local food pantry. Nothing remarkable, just ordinary things that gave the days some shape and meaning. One afternoon, while helping sort through donated goods, I found myself laughing at something one of the other volunteers said. A real laugh, the kind that rises up on its own. Not polite, not performed. The moment caught me off guard because it made me realize something. For months I had been so consumed with surviving what had happened that I'd forgotten I was still allowed to enjoy being alive. That realization felt like a window thrown open. Summer came, then autumn. The leaves turned, and slowly, steadily, the anger loosened its hold. The memories stayed. The lessons stayed. But the anger itself faded. That's one of the gifts that comes with age if you let it. Sooner or later, you understand that carrying resentment does more damage to you than to the person you're carrying it toward. Then one evening in late October, my phone rang. Derek's name came up on the screen. I sat there looking at it. For a few seconds, I thought about sending it to voicemail. Instead, I picked up. Hello? A long pause. Then, Dad? His voice had changed somehow. Quieter, heavier, older. Yes. I was wondering if I could see you. Not to borrow money, not to ask a favor, not to talk about the house. Just to see me. I thought it over, then said yes. We met the following weekend at a small diner roughly halfway between where each of us lived. Nothing special, just coffee pie and the kind of honesty that doesn't come easily. Derek was already there when I arrived. When I walked in, something about him had shifted. The confidence he used to carry was gone. What had taken its place was something more genuine humility. After we ordered, neither of us said anything for a minute. Then he looked up. I'm sorry. I nodded. He kept going, not rushing it, not reaching for excuses, not deflecting toward Tanya, just speaking plainly. For close to 20 minutes, he apologized. He talked about his failures, his weakness, his fear of conflict, his habit of choosing quiet in his marriage, overdoing what was right. Then he said something I haven't stopped thinking about. I keep replaying Christmas Eve. I looked at him. His eyes were wet. Good. He seemed surprised. Good, yes. He frowned. I went on gently. If it still hurts, that means you've learned something. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Derek nodded slowly. I think he understood. People tend to assume that forgiveness means acting as if something never happened. It doesn't. Forgiveness means looking at the damage clearly and choosing not to make a permanent home inside it. By the time lunch was over, nothing had been magically repaired. Trust doesn't work that way. It builds slowly, breaks quickly, and comes back slower still. But something real had happened. We had begun. In the months that followed, things improved by degrees. Calls came more often. Visits felt less strained. Conversations became more honest. Tanya kept her distance at first. I couldn't hold that against her entirely. Shame has a way of making people go quiet. But eventually she reached out. Her apology was softer than Derek's. Less certain, less rehearsed. In some ways, that made it easier to believe. I accepted it not because she had earned some instant pardon, but because nursing bitterness had stopped serving any purpose. Life is too short for that. Before long, Cassie and Owen were coming out to the lake house on a regular basis. We fished, played cards, swapped stories, and every time I watched them laughing out on the deck, I felt grateful. Not for what had happened, but for what I had come to understand because of it. The next Christmas arrived almost exactly 1 year after the suitcase night. Things looked entirely different. I hosted dinner at my place. Nothing elaborate, just family around a table, decent food, and conversation that actually meant something. At some point during the evening, I stepped outside. The lake held the reflection of Christmas lights from the houses across the water. The air was cold and still and quiet. I thought about Vivian. I could almost hear what she'd say, something straightforward, something true. Something like people show you who they are eventually, but don't let their mistakes change who you are. She would have been right, because the deepest lesson in all of this had nothing to do with revenge, nothing to do with ownership, nothing to do with being right. It was about self respect. For years, I confused love with limitless sacrifice. I told myself that being a good father meant absorbing anything, accepting anything, excusing anything. I was wrong. Love matters. Generosity matters. But so do boundaries. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you is refuse to accept treatment that strips away your dignity. That lesson arrived late, but it arrived, and it wasn't too late. If you've ever been taken for granted, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and holding on to your self respect, I hope this story is worth something to you. And if someone you love forgets what you've given them, don't you forget it. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. I mean that. This wasn't an easy story to tell, and I imagine parts of it weren't easy to hear. Looking back, what cost me most wasn't the house, and it wasn't the closing table, and it wasn't even Christmas Eve with that suitcase by the door. What it cost me was time, years of quietly accepting less than I deserved, because I confused keeping the peace with keeping the family together. I believe God has a way of letting the truth surface when we've run out of the strength to hide from it. The timing wasn't mine, but the lesson was. Here's what I took from all of it. First, love is not a reason to erase your own worth. Give generously, but don't give so much of yourself that nothing is left to protect. Second, silence isn't always patience. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a quieter coat. Know the difference. Third, if the people around you only value you when it costs them nothing that isn't love, it's convenience. And fourth, it is never too late to draw a line. Not at 60, not at 72, not ever. If this story reached something in you, if it reminded you of someone you know, or something you've been through yourself, I hope you'll share it with that person. Sometimes a story says what we haven't found the words for yet. And if you haven't already, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to True Revenge Stories so you don't miss what comes next. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read them. Until next time, take care of yourself. You've earned it.